Okay, welcome to your last lesson for this week. We are going to finish up by solving systems of equations by using substitution. So we started this yesterday, and I didn't give you an assignment. I just wanted you to get your feet wet with it. Today I'm going to give you a couple more examples, and then you're going to try an assignment on this to see how you can do. So remember that we can solve a system of equations, which is two equations that have an x and a y, by graphing them and seeing where the lines cross, seeing that point where the lines cross. Now, sometimes you can't easily graph the lines or you're not given a graph. So in that case, there are other methods that we can use, and the method that we're going to use today is called substitution. So when you try your hand at this, what I want you to do is to write the two equations side by side. So the first equation is y equals 5x. The second one is 2x plus 2y equals 2. I just write the top and the bottom side by side. So I'm just going to do that real quick. So 2x plus 2y equals 2, or equals 0. So I just rewrote this equation next to the first one. Now, when I want to figure out what I'm substituting in, I want to look for the equation that starts with either y equals or x equals. And out of the two equations I was given, this one starts with y equals. So this is the one I'm going to use to substitute and solve for my final answer. So I'm told that y equals 5x for both equations. So I'm going to substitute 5x in for my y value. Okay, again, so what I did is I was told that y equals 5x in my first equation, and I substituted in 5x for my y value into my second. So now I'm going to rewrite my second equation with substituting in 5x for y. So 2x plus 2 times 5x equals 0. Now I'm going to solve this like normal. 2 times 5x is 10x. On the left side of the equal sign, I have a 2x and a 10x, which equals 12x when I combine my like terms. I'm going to divide each side by 12. Anything divided by itself is 1. And I get x equals 0 because 0 divided by 12 is 0. So that's one part of my answer. Okay, I need an x and a y to know where my lines cross. Now, again, I am going to use my original equation that starts with y equals to figure out my value for y. So I'm told that y equals 5 times x. So again, I'm going to use that equation, y equals 5 times x. And I'm going to substitute in my value for x to figure out y. I got x equals 0. So y equals 5 times 0. 5 times 0 is 5, so y equals 0, and x also equals 0. So my answer is that these lines would cross or intersect at the point 0, 0. X is 0, y is 0. Let's try another one. For number 2, again, I have two equations, and I have one equation that starts with y equals. So remember that whenever I'm choosing which to substitute into the other equation, I need to look for y equals or x equals. Then I'm going to write my two equations side by side. So I'm going to write my one on top, which is already on top, and then the one on the bottom right next to it. So all I'm doing is rewriting these side by side. I don't have to do this. I think that just helps. This just helps, though, with keeping your information organized. So I'm told that y equals 2, so I'm going to substitute 2 in for my y into my second equation. Okay, so I substituted 2 in for my y. Now I'm going to rewrite this and substitute 2 in for y. So I've got negative 6x plus 6 times y, or 6 times 2, equals negative 12. Now I'm going to solve this like normal. I know that 6 times 2 is 12. So I've got negative 6x plus 12. Okay, plus 12 equals negative 12. Now I'm going to solve this like a normal two-step equation. So subtract 12 from each side. 12 minus 12 is 0, and I have negative 6 times x equals negative 24, because negative 12 minus 12 is negative 24. My last step is to divide each side by negative 6. Anything divided by itself is 1. And negative 24 divided by negative 6 is positive 4. So x equals 4. Okay, now when I want to figure out what my original y or what my y value is, I have x, now I need to have y. I look at the equation that I subbed in. So I'm told that y equals 2. So I don't even have to solve for my y value. So x is 4 and y equals 2. So my point where my lines would cross if I were to graph these is at 4, comma, 2. Okay, let's take a look at number 4. So again, it just so happens that the equation that I sub in has been on the top each time. Sometimes the equation that you sub in will be on the bottom of the two, but it doesn't matter. All you have to look for is y equals or x equals so that you know which part to sub in where. So I'm going to write my two equations side by side. Okay, I'm told that my y value is 4, so I'm going to substitute in 4 for my y value into my second equation. So what I have is 2 times x minus 4 equals negative 16. Now I'm going to solve this for x. So I'm going to add 4 to each side, and you may use a calculator for this as it will speed up your work a bit. Negative 4 plus 4 is 0, and I'm left with 2 times x equals negative 12. Negative 16 plus 4 is negative 12. My last step is to divide each side by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so I get 1x equals negative 6. So I already have one answer to my problem. X is negative 6. Now I need to know what my y value is, because remember that when solving for systems of equations, you're looking for a point, or your x and your y, which is where these two lines would cross. So I'm going to look at the one that I subbed in to my problem, which was y equals 4. I don't have to solve for y, I'm just told y is 4. So my answer, or my point where my lines would cross, is at negative 6, comma, 4. And if you wanted to check your work, you could just plug in these values. So 2 times negative 6 minus 4 should give me negative 16. Okay, last problem we're going to do today. Again, I have two equations, and my second equation is y equals 0. So that is going to be the one I sub in. Remember, the one that I sub in, I want to have y equals or x equals so that I can easily just substitute in what it equals. So I'm going to write my two equations side by side. So I just rewrote this one next to the one on top. So I'm told y is 0, so I'm going to plug in 0 for my y into my original equation. And I'm going to do that below. So I've got negative 5x plus 4 times 0 equals 15. Now, this one's pretty easy to solve. 4 times 0 is just 0. So it's just 0. So I can just rewrite this as negative 5x equals 15. Now, this is a one step. Negative 5 times x, opposite would be to divide each side by negative 5. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Negative 5 divided by itself is 1. 15 divided by negative 5 is negative 3. So my x value is negative 3. Now I need my value for y as well, and I was told that y is 0. So my answer, where my two lines would cross, would be at the point negative 3, x comes first, and then 0 for y. Now, if I wanted to check my work, I could just plug my solution into my problem. So let's try this out real quick. So my first systems of equations, I've got negative 5 times x plus 4 times y is 15. So I'm going to plug in my negative 3 for x and my 0 for y and make sure I get 15. So I've got negative 5 times negative 3 for x plus 4y, or 4 times 0, because 0 is y, equals 15. And again, if you're confused as to where I got this, I just rewrote this equation and I plugged in negative 3 for x and 0 for y. Okay, so let's check it. 4 times 0 is 0. Negative 5 times negative 3 is 15, equals 15. Oops. So yes, negative 3 and 0 work for that. Now let's try the second equation. I've got y equals 0. So I'm going to plug in my y, which is 0 for y. So I got 0 for y equals 0. Yep, that works. So that's how you can check your work. Just plug your answer in for both equations and make sure that they work out. Okay, thanks for watching. You'll try an assignment on this today, and if you have any questions, let me know, or hop on our Zoom later. Okay?